Welcome everyone. This is our youth empowerment panel tonight. My name is Alexandra Liotopoulos. I am programming director of Philo for Thought and president of the Icaros Hellenic Club at Queens College. This past semester was a trying time for many students like me, and we're still searching for what the new normal is going to be as we go back to school in September, depending if we're online or on campus. But as you know, there are several factors that have contributed to increased stress levels during the global pandemic, which are affecting not only counselors, faculty, and students, but young professionals as well across the board. Now that we've had time to process the reality of the pandemic, it is important to establishing healthy coping mechanisms and allow ourselves mental and physical space to reduce the anxiety caused by our daily social, academic, and professional obligations and our future plans. The topics that we'll cover today will focus on young professional empowerment, teaching, and learning. Work-life balance will be addressed in the open Q&A session following the panel discussion. We will have 3 panels today. The first one will focus on counseling and how we can learn to cope with common stresses and anxieties brought on specifically by COVID. The second panel will focus on education and career with topics relating to effective teaching and mentoring skills, as well as tips and tricks to ensuring a healthy work-life balance. The third panel will focus on first impressions, including tips and tricks for networking, branding, and job hunting. If you have any questions throughout our panels, feel free to write them in the chat option, and as the panels go along, and we'll get to them in the Q&A portion of our event. If we have an excess amount of questions, we will break out into breakout rooms like we can do on Zoom, and you can ask your specific question to each panelist individually. So our first panel is counseling, and our speakers are Kathy Diaz and Eleni Mironidis. Kathy Diaz is a licensed clinical social worker, therapist for youth and young adults in New York with additional specializations in mental health, disaster response, and trauma management. Eleni is a motivational speaker and emotional intelligence business coach in Philadelphia, as well as a writer of advisory articles for Philo for Thought. So our first question goes to both of you. What have each of you found to be the top COVID-related stress factors affecting college students and recent grads? Kathy, do you want to go first?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, sorry, I had to mute myself. One of the top categories is what's going to happen next. They worry about, will I go back to school? Will I finish college? You know, things of that nature of what's next. And that's an honest fear that many people have. Like, what do I do next? Can I go back to living on campus? Are we sitting in a classroom next year? Is it remote learning again? I feel like that's the question that everyone has, and we just don't have the answers to. But it's what's next in regards to job, in regards to going back to school.
I think I have to agree. Even across like elementary school board, I babysit a lot of kids, and they were all the parents are saying, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Am I keep my kid in public school? Am I going to send them to private school? Because a lot of the private schools are planning to go back because of the small class sizes. So I think everyone is kind of thinking the same thing. And then on the opposite side, in the college level, it's like the private schools are planning to go back, but the public schools might go back. But then is it worth it to pay all this tuition?
Mm-hmm.
Not going to be using the campus. Eleni,
Correct.
What is your take?
So what I'm hearing a lot of recently is, as far as the age population between 20 to 25, mid-20s at the most, it's, you know, this break that we're on right now where students are mostly home for the summer, and even more so than usual given the pandemic. It's how do we keep ourselves safe, and then also for our parents. And if some of us have family members that are older, as far as, you know, in a grandparent's age level, it's how do we navigate that, and how do we take those necessary precautions and make sure that we don't miss that step in not just protecting our parents, but everyone else who is in contact with them at the most that we can. So that was the number one that I have been seeing recently.
I think I agree with that too. I feel like right now it's like taking precautions, trying to stay safe for not only ourselves, but everyone that we're coming in contact with, and limiting the amount of contact that we have, even though things are opening up again and we want to go out, we want to have fun, but at the same time, we need to stay safe. Our next question, Kathy, do you find that online learning has led to more social anxieties amongst young professionals?
Yes, it's again of what's next. That's what anxiety really is. Anxiety is, what do I do? What's next? I don't know what's behind that door. So not knowing what's behind that door is very scary for many people. I had a session with I believe she's 13 going on to 14. So she's going from middle school to high school. And with remote learning, she wasn't doing well. She openly said to me, I'm not learning anything. I'm falling behind. What will happen to me when I get to high school? And that was a valid point. What will happen to me? If I don't get part A, how am I getting to part B successfully? And I validated her feelings 100%. I didn't think about it that way. I thought students and young adults were thinking, oh, this is great. I could stay at home. I could work from home. I could go to school from home. This is awesome. But reality is they're not getting it. And that's what I get a lot of. If there's not a parent or older sibling, a mentor to assist in any kind of way to get to the next level, they feel anxious about getting there. How do I get there if I don't have the proper care, the proper path built for me? And that's what I find a lot of. It's, again, what's next? I don't know what next looks like. And if I'm not getting A, how am I getting to B?
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing that I've seen in regards to anxiety is just, how's it gonna look? We just don't know. What happens on the train? Like little things now that used to be so normal to them and us, it's kind of like, hold on, can I do that? Is that okay? Let me talk about it with my mom. Let me talk about it with a teacher, with a mentor, somebody, because I'm not sure if whatever that is okay.
Mm-hmm. I think I find the same kind of anxieties, like transitioning now. I'm a senior in college. I don't want to miss my senior year on campus.
Right.
At the same time, should we be exposing our professors to ourselves, because we're carriers as young professionals? So it's like we don't know what's going to happen and we want to just go back to normal, but there is no normal anymore. Like normal wasn't normal. Like we were too ahead of our time. I read the article saying that we needed this time to pause and reevaluate, but now we don't know how to like go back on track, because there was so much schedule, and now there's no schedule anymore. And like you said, oh, kids thought this was going to be great. I don't have to do anything. I could sit at home. I could be in class in my pajamas. And it was like, I'm not going to class anymore. I'm not logging on when I'm supposed to. I'm falling behind. How do I move on to the next grade? And all schools were doing things so differently that it was like, how can you measure everyone at the same pace? Like a school here in New York might have been doing 8 to 3 everyday Zooms, but another school in another state might have been doing something different. So you can't, then when it comes time to college, how are you going to assess those children at the same level? Thank you, Kathy. That was great insight. Our next question is, what are some tips and tricks to help create safe, interactive space for effective and engaging teaching, counseling, and discussion? Eleni, you want to start? Wait, you're okay.
There we go. Here I am. So, yeah, when I hear this, I immediately think of a gathering, but the first visual of that I have is almost like as if you're getting together with your friends for coffee. It's something that we can all think of. Those of us who are of drinking age, you know, we're getting together for a drink, let's say happy hour. Obviously, this is not exactly the ideal situation for us at the moment, even though most of the states, I know California is shut down currently again, but however, there's still, for the most part, it seems that outside seating is a possibility. So I would just really encourage, you know, just for our own mental sanity, if you guys are able to take advantage of that, just do so. And obviously, with the right safety precautions, you know, have your mask on. And even if you're not worried for yourself, I definitely want to keep stressing the importance of, you don't know if an elderly person could be walking by you within another minute or two. And with that being said, you don't know if they have a certain pre-existing condition that will make them fall into that at-risk category that we really need to be protecting the most right now. So just going back to the coffee dates again, it's something that we can think of. I hope many of you are able to get out and about, and even if not, just go to a park or go for a walk. And even if it's just 3 of you, let's say, I personally have done this with myself, with my cousins. It's so easy to just kind of have that conversation, that dialogue, and say, hey, you know what? Can you guys bring water bottles? Can one person bring wipes or hand sanitizer just in case? And almost designating that responsibility to each person, it's almost as if, okay, you know what? We're not really in this pandemic, even though obviously we are. It's a nice change of that mindset, and it's a good way to just kind of keep ourselves, you know, moving forward, that we're not going to just sit still. We're going to keep doing the best that we can to make sure that it's not going to hinder us. We're going to adapt, and we're going to continue on moving forward. So that would definitely be my number one that I would really encourage.
I think that's the key, adapting to this new lifestyle that we've all been forced into. Because I feel like a lot of us are kind of like either sheltering in place or like not following any restrictions. And it's like we need a happy median. Like we need to just take our precautions and start adapting to how life is going to be. We can't be scared forever.
No, we can't.
About some tips and tricks for creating a safe, interactive space.
One of the things that I've told my clients is to have a new normalcy. Create your new norm. Create a schedule for yourself. So if that is taking a walk after lunch, that's okay. Around the block, in the close park. Being safe, of course, is what Lenny said. I agree 100%. Is just adding a new normalcy for yourself. That's my biggest thing that I tell my clients is it's okay to create your own schedule. It's all on you now, as long as you're safe about it. And that is the most important thing. You're out of the house. You have every Sunday, I have a Zoom brunch meeting with my female friends. 1 p.m. No one bothered me at that time. But it's every Sunday, 1 p.m. And I say that all the time, and people just know Sunday, 1 p.m. I'm busy, you know. And we've done this since the quarantine began in March. So it's pretty cool to know Sunday, 1 p.m. My friend lives where she lives? In Florida. I have another one on Long Island, a couple in Queens, and we just all hang out in the Zoom meeting for an hour. It's awesome, and it's safe, and you're still connected with people, and that's my new normalcy, and it's so important just to create something for yourself.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I think we all need to stay connected to people, even though it's been kind of tough. I'm sure you have clients that are telling you, like, I don't have the mental capacity to sit and talk to people anymore. I feel like I've lost my social skills being in my house all the time. But I feel like we need to stay connected in order to maintain that, because so many people are just disconnecting. And then what happens when things do open up eventually? What are we going to do then? So it's just adapting again to this new normal and getting used to everything. Let's see, next question. So Eleni, what are some self-care practices to help alleviate stress and maintain a healthy outlook and work-life balance?
Oh, I love this one. Okay, so I have three that I'll break down for you all. Very simple to follow. The first one, I think many of you will be like, you know what? I've either heard this from my family or I've read about it or I know it for myself. So this needs to go away. We all have it. We all, unfortunately, just I'm not happy saying it, but for those of you that have an iPhone, at the end of the week, it tells you how much screen time you have on it. And I look at that and I take a deep breath in, because it's not our reality, but unfortunately it's a method that we get a lot of our work done. And that's the reality that we have to use. So I would really emphasize the importance of, for very, very intense situations where you're kind of just, let's say you spoke with a family member that got you all, rattled up, and then you just spoke with your boss and he's like, hey, I need these 3 deadlines. How I told you I need them by the end of the week. I actually need them by tomorrow by lunchtime. And you have 2 other things to do this evening. And this has only helped me immensely. I want to add as well, if we just put it away for even, and I don't mean just put it away, put it out of sight, shut it off. When you know that you have it off too, it's also less tempting to go look at and to check, because it will require your effort to even just go on and turn it on, if everyone's following me with that. So that, off the top of my head, is something just very simple, not hard for us to grasp. It's a very easy concept. Let's go back to the times where, we were young and we didn't have to depend on this. It's amazing how much that fog in your brain will clear up with me personally, within less than 5 minutes. That's all I need. And to help using that tool, that method, like Kathy was saying before, go outside. If you can't go outside, this is a really cool trick. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of this as well. Open your freezer and get that cold air through your nose. It really helps. It's a trigger for that fight or flight response, where you have that cold signal that goes to your brain, and your body thinks that it has to do something, but you will be very aware that nothing is wrong. I'm just breathing in some cold air right now. So you'll be aware enough to know that, hey, I'm taking this self-practice step. It's nothing for me to worry about. The second one that I really want to emphasize is a very easy, I call it a 3-5 5x5 breath work. We can do it really quickly right now if we all just want to kind of sit up a little bit straight, or straighter than we were. Take 1 deep breath in before we start. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, breathe. And now I'll tell you what it is. So we're going to breathe in for 5, hold for 5, and exhale for 5. And one of my mentors taught me this skill, and it really helps me very, very much. I actually use it if I'm having a lot of difficulty falling asleep at night. So we can start now if we're all ready. So 1, 2, 3, and then we'll breathe in. 1, 2, 3, breathe in for 5. Hold for 5. And exhale for 5. Okay. How are you feeling?
Better.
Okay. So if I do that at least 3 times consecutively, I do notice a difference. It's something I truthfully underestimated in the beginning, but it's something I've honed and I use every single day now. The last thing that I would like to really share with you guys is just practice that mindfulness of not only thinking before we respond to any negativity that we're hearing, but doing that for our own sake too. So what I mean by this is that, again, if I'll go back to the situation of an example that I used before, let's say if we have, just 3 people kind of like on us, really like requiring our attention, demanding our time, and we just are like, I need a minute. I know it's very easy for us to just react. So let's take that minute to think and then not react but respond. So it will help not just them, but it will help, you'll leave that situation feeling, number one, more in control of how you'll be able to handle other situations more successfully. And you won't be worried about later, hey, did I say something too harsh? Should I have maybe been a little bit more patient? Just anything that many of us I know can naturally tend to second guess. It's part of our human nature with people that we love, especially. We never want to hurt their feelings. So if we can just really do that, not just for them, but also for us, you'll see that it'll not just be a domino effect, but it'll be, instead of that term vicious cycle, we're going to really start getting more and more of that good that we're so, desperately searching for, especially during this day and age. So I hope those 3 things really helped you guys.
I've always been told mindful meditation helps.
Yeah.
Of my own anxieties, that it just does not like work. But the breathing exercise did like calm my nerves.
Great. Good.
But
I'm happy to hear that.
I found that so when quarantine started, I started like working out more as a way to like keep myself sane. And it did help me. Like I knew I had to go to class in the morning, but then in the afternoon I would do a quick workout and it would help me keep like some type of balance. But I think like doing little things like what you said, the breathing, and just making sure that we don't react immediately and we think about what we say before we like start speaking, it'll help keep everyone at ease, even with other things going on right now, and cause less drama.
Right. So I just want to emphasize real fast too, and then I'll leave it back over to you, Alexandra. This is going to pass. It's not something that we are not going to be in this state of being for the world at large and the country, even though I know we're kind of getting that second wind, it seems like, being realistic. It's not going to last forever. So if we also keep that image and that thought, and we tell ourselves that over and over again, you'll see within a matter of days how much that will help as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So, Kathy, what would you say are some coping mechanisms to help alleviate stress and maintain a healthy outlook, work-life balance?
I say 2 things, and I instilled it within myself and in my children as well. I got 2 young kids, 7 and 10. And what I've always said, and this is just, I'm not enforcing it, but encouraging it more, keeping a schedule of some sort. Keeping whatever schedule you want to keep. So if you get up every day at 10, get up every day at 10. Have breakfast at 11, go to school from 12 to 4, whatever the case it may be. Just keep your schedule. I go to sleep by 10 o'clock, whatever the case may be. Keeping a schedule is important for your mindset. It's important to know, okay, this is next. And if you think about it, for little kids, I always do it for parents. I encourage a schedule. If you think about it, 7 o'clock, it's time to get ready for bed. The kids finally pick it up. And it becomes easier for everyone around you, including yourself, right? So 7 o'clock, it is a time when my kids start getting ready for bed. And they see 7:00, all right, start getting ready for bed. So as an adult, you have to get to work at a certain time. So I need to be ready by a certain time. I need to log on by a certain time. So keeping a schedule, a daily schedule of what you need to do is so important. And then having that schedule decreases your anxiety in a sense that you don't feel overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, it's 5 o'clock and I have done, nothing has been done. No, if you've kept your schedule, you had lunch, you worked out, I completed this project, I had this meeting, 5 o'clock, oh, I'm done. Great. Keeping a schedule, I feel is so important, not only for today's time, for yesterday's time, for the future time. So if you think about it, as a college student, you have a paper to write, 10-page paper to write. I have been the person who's written a 10-page paper the night before. But how stressful is it? Like, was it really that stressful? Did I really have to put myself through that? Mm-hmm. No. After a couple of years of college, I figured out, let me break this up. And if I break it up the night before, I really have not much work to do. So it's the same thing as an adult, work-life balance. During this whole thing, it's still going on. I work from home. I have 2 kids and I'm a parent, so I had to remote teach them. We had a schedule down pat. Mm-hmm. They were done by 2:30. I went back to work. I completed everything by 5 p.m. Then dinner started. But I had a schedule. Not to say I kind of lost it a couple of times because, we're staying at home for all these weeks. They're going crazy. Mm-hmm. But reality is, my kids knew it. I knew it. The day's almost over. We even scheduled in tablet time. So you don't have to worry about the fight of, I only had an hour. No. 3 to 5, that's it, goodbye. No more tablets. And they knew the schedule. So that's so important. Just knowing, look at that time, we gotta go. And that's really important. And the second thing I want to say, another thing I've always said, is if it's too overwhelming, go talk to somebody. Go speak to a counselor. It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be even every month. I call it a check-in. Just how am I doing, right? How am I coping? Am I doing okay? Like I said, people are just like, oh no, that's not from my kind of people, whatever. It's for everybody. You're a human being. You need to learn how to cope. You have anxiety. Some people have depression because these changes are real. These are real changes. So to address the fact that we do have certain feelings is very important. And I'm not talking about talking to grandma. It's great, but talking to a third person who won't judge you, who will validate your feelings, agree with you and say, you know what, that sounds kind of funny. Say that again to me. That's important. It's really, really important. Someone who will be honest with you in a nice way. So it's scheduling. And if it's so overwhelming, go talk to somebody. Even if it's just one time. Mm-hmm. I totally have done it a couple of times. I do it every 6 months just to make sure I'm not going crazy as I say it. But I check on myself, and that's what it is. It's not an ongoing therapy session that I go every week. I go to make sure, am I doing okay? Am I coping well? So those are the 2 things I believe is important for everybody.
I think you're completely right. I think we need to learn how to self-reflect and accept, like, if we do need help and go seek it instead of just bottling it all up and then like exploding on our family members or whoever's in front of us in that moment. How would you say that how would you use these coping mechanisms to help students as they start to transition back to real life? How will these practices help them cope with the change and transitions that are destined to occur if schools start opening and stuff like that?
So the biggest thing that I feel as individuals, as young kids, we don't teach our kids how to cope. We just, it's fine, it's fine. Don't worry about it, it's fine. And we don't teach our kids how to actually feel and say, I feel I am angry because I am sad. So if we start the earlier the better, I've always said. If we start just addressing feelings as they are. So I'm angry because my sister took my toy, right? Saying it out loud and saying I'm angry because I am sad daddy's not home yet. Whatever the case may be, expressing feelings is okay. So when you start expressing feelings as you get older, you're able to cope because then you understand your own feelings. Mm-hmm. So I started therapy, I was in high school, I think. And I feel like with all the changes that I've had in my life, I was able to accept the changes because I was able to be like, you know what? I understand this is a change. I understand my feelings and this is what I need to do. Because when we learn how to cope, we could move on. We could say, yes, I'm a little bit anxious and I understand I'm a little bit anxious. What do I need to do to take care of myself? Because that's part of coping also. What do I need to do to take care of myself? And if that's, I'm going to run away for the weekend to visit my friends somewhere, or you know what, I'm not picking up my cell phone for the whole weekend. Whatever you do to take care of yourself and then come back to your regular life, that's okay. And that's your coping with yourself without, like you said, crying, having crying bursts somewhere, or screaming at somebody, whatever the case may be, overreacting. Mm-hmm. We need to take care of ourselves first and know what works for us. And that's so important. So that's where the scheduling comes in. That's where self-meditation comes in. You mentioned exercising as well. That's also amazing. Having your community is so important. If I have grandma who's just going to listen to me, she won't say a word, that's wonderful. You know, if I have my aunt who's going to be there to pick up that phone and I know she's picking up that phone, that's wonderful. That's something that person learned and to cope. Mm-hmm. And that's what they did. Someone taught that person, if I call grandma, she will teach me, she will listen to me, and that will make me feel better. So learning how to cope in different stages of life will help you to the next stage of life. That being from high school to college, college to the senior in college, grad school, work-related, whatever it is. I know how to cope, and that's the most important thing. I know how to take care of myself. And that's what we all need. We need to find our inner selves, and sometimes it's through counseling, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it doesn't have to be every week. It could be every month. It could be every 2 weeks. It could be every 6 months. But reality is, we, as a society, we don't know how to cope. And we do it in our adulthood. And by then, it's kind of like, I already had a lot of breakdowns.
Yeah.
Let's lessen the breakdowns and be able to process what we really need to do for ourselves.
I think that's something that we're all going to take away from this, like learning how to cope and understand our feelings so that we can be better for ourselves and for others. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Eleni. That is going to conclude our first panel. Our next panel is going to focus on education and career. Our featured speakers are Chris Salbudis and Terry Lynn Smith. Chris is a professor of philosophy and literature, a life coach, and educational administrator, as well as the founding director of Philo for Thought. Terry is a career coach and founding president of Giraffes Consulting, as well as a leadership coach and mentor at Braven, which is an organization for students transitioning to the workplace. So our first question goes to both of you. What are some tips that you both have found to help, to alleviate social anxieties related to online instruction, networking, and interviewing? Terry, do you want to start? Oh, wait. Now you can.
Now I can go. Okay, great. I think one of the things you need to do is really explore the feelings that you're feeling. Is it a real anxiety, or is it something that you kind of made up or think you should be? If it's real, you need to stop for a moment and figure out a plan on how to address it. Otherwise, you can also, in the learning aspects, and we're doing on all different platforms, take the time out to really learn how to use the program, Don't try and use the program as you move forward, because that's full of anxiety. These platforms can be convoluted and complicated, and once you have them, though, it's a breeze. Also, I agree with Kathy. Ask for help. Everyone is going to be needing to ask for help. And if you waste time not asking for help, you're not going anywhere. And then be confident. With courage and a plan, you can accomplish anything.
I like that. I like that. With courage and a plan, you can accomplish anything. Chris, what can you say about that?
So actually, I'm going to piggyback off of what Kathy said earlier and something else that Eleni contributed earlier. The first one is keep on track with the schedule. The more you keep to a routine, the better you'll feel. Because think of, there are normal levels of anxiety that you should feel to feel motivated for the next challenge, so that you can feel excited about work or school or whatever you're doing. However, if you proceed without any kind of plan, you lose really the purpose of what you're doing. And really the most important thing, as I tell all my students, ethos, logos, pathos, you have to have your plan, your map, so that you can proceed with the day with a little more confidence and a little less anxiety. And also it helps if you have that support system, you know, your advisor, you know that you can go to a certain person. Then from Eleni, I do agree, turn the phone off. Even if it's for 5 minutes, even if it's for like 10, 15 minutes, just give yourself that peace of walking away from the screen, do something that's not related to that screen, and then come back. Now, does that mean you're not going to have any anxiety? No, of course not. But make a few notes of the things that you're noticing that are making you anxious, and then figure out how to work through them step by step, a little bit at a time. You don't have to take it all at once. You don't have to solve for X every second of every day, because that generates anxiety as well.
I agree. I like that too, because I find that I cannot detach from my phone at all, like many students. And even like just thinking about turning it off and putting it to the side creates the anxiety. And we have to like learn to detach in order to not be anxious. But everything comes in waves. We'll figure it out eventually. Chris, as a professor, what have you found has been done to help students be engaged during this time and get involved in different things, even though they're online?
So there's a lot of behind the scenes that are going on right now. So a lot of heroes on campus everywhere, facilities, public safety, IT, to make sure that people are distancing themselves correctly. I'm very proud to say that I've been working with a lot of people in IT who are motivating teachers who found the transition to online very challenging because they've never taught online before. So they've really taken up the helm. They've become the go-to people for a lot of questions. Even though those IT departments stay small, it's important to be able to support them, to be patient with them as well, because they're smaller groups working with an enormous campus now. So where we used to have a handful of online instructors, every campus now has fully online instructors everywhere. There's also a heavy burden put on advisors, people who are chairs of department, people who are program directors, deans, etc., to try and communicate in a timely manner with not just with each other as they do, but also with the students who are going through a number of anxiety issues as well. The counseling centers have been made available as hotlines and also as online. So they have scheduled online sessions, which is great. And basically, the same thing we tell the teachers: stay organized, stay on top of your syllabus, have something from the beginning of the term. So now in the spring, there were some classes that were slightly chaotic, we'll say in a nice way, because you had teachers who were very structured from the beginning, like some people who had like weekly everything, but then other people who like a little bit of chaos so that they can have organic questions from their students, etc. And then all of a sudden, when the student numbers started dropping, or when the feedback from online was a little bit chaotic, they lost a lot of the punch in their existing course plan. So what those people are doing is moving to a more structured course plan for the fall, so that we don't have that. And so hopefully everybody will be on board for that and ready for the fall, because now we know what we're facing. We know to prepare for online. So now the materials will be already online, which is great.
And what are some tips that you have for high school students that are coming into college in an online environment?
So the tip is really to the top one is to contact your advisor. Make sure that you keep close tabs with your advisors. Now, I know that some of my colleagues at CUNY are not primary advisors to specific students because that's just how the CUNYs were set up, and they have these freshman centers, and the freshman centers are great. But it's important for students to know if they have a major declared coming in, it's important to know who their advisors are going to be. And if they're undecided, I encourage them to contact the freshman center or the dean's office and to make sure that they locate an advisor, even if it's one of the deans temporarily for that semester. Because the fall, you want to encourage people to feel safe and secure, but the fact is, they're not all going to have those freshman orientations on the Great Lawn or in the quads or etc. So it's important to be able to see what the plan is in the dean's office and to make sure you have your freshman packets, to make sure you're following the instructions. So where a lot of times we're told the students like video content, they don't read, it's important for the students to read all the material that they're getting this year, particularly from their schools. You know, it's important that you know what your financial aid packet includes and doesn't include, what your student services are going to include. And frankly, this year, even though we might not all be on campus, the need is there for those student fees because it's going to go towards IT so that you have the servers and everything moving and working properly.
And have you found that maybe certain students are not planning to go back in the fall, they're deferring a year, or they're reluctant to finish their undergrad because they don't want to waste money on tuition that's going to go towards online school, or not being able to be on campus and socialize and use these resources that are included in their tuitions? Do you find that a lot of people are not going to go back to school?
So that is a problem. We had a lot of students who did not finish the spring semester, frankly. And so that created a student retention issue, and we're trying to reach out to those students to make sure that they are not maybe sick and needed a medical leave for a semester and then coming back in the spring. Meanwhile, you have the students who are transitioning in as freshmen or transitioning out as seniors. And to those students, we just ask that they keep on track with their advisors, keep to their list of resources. Be aware that a lot of things, the library now, everything is online. Libraries are starting to scan books more and more so that you don't have to physically be in the library. I know the fitness center, okay, it's not a wasted fee, it's just be patient, okay, a little bit. The printing fees, the computer fees, the servers, all of these fees. Just look and see, if you look and see how the fees are being utilized, they're still being utilized directly for the students. And online classes are not easier classes. They actually take a lot more time for teachers to prepare. It's just because the students don't see the teachers sweating in front of the blackboard, they think we're not doing anything. It actually takes a lot more time and energy to prepare an online course shell that's visually appealing and engaging to the students than it is to stand up and be, part teacher, part comedian for a couple hours, in front of people. It's a little easier to be the comedian than it is to be the online instructor.
And Terry, what are some tricks? Chris mentioned kids are graduating, they're nervous about going into the workforce. What are some tricks and tips that you have for new grads going into an online work environment?
Well, the first thing I would ask them to do is to review all the activities they participated in while they were in college. What role did you play? What organizations did you join? What skills did you develop in all of these different roles? Because many of these skills, such as leadership, project management, strategic planning, and problem solving, you're gaining experience and creating transitional skills that all workforces are looking for. So you don't necessarily have to be paid for experience that you gain, but the experiences that you gain as a student and as a participant in your college experience really gives you an opportunity to talk about these things and include them in your resume moving forward. But they're always great answers to being able to give examples of what you have done in leadership or project management and all the things that are above. So I think that the college experience, we need to look at that a little bit more closely and see what else did we do besides going to class. What else did we learn, and how can we use that? How can we translate it for the recruiter to understand that you yet have some other skills available that would make you an ideal candidate for the job? Another thing is that you really want to learn how to use all of the remote platforms such as Zoom and Microsoft Meetings. Demonstrate your ability by hosting meetings, hosting events. I know Kathy talked about her brunch. All of these things are ways for you to demonstrate in an interview that you can work remotely from home, that you understand all of those processes and platforms. One of the new questions that we're being asked, or recruiters are asking of our clients, whether they're recent college graduates or people who've recently been unemployed, what new skills did you learn during the pandemic? Did you use the time to develop more skills that add to your ability or might be valuable for the company that you might be applying to? Or did you gain some certificates or another degree? All of these are highlights and demonstrate that your desire to continually grow and learn. It shows your ability to work and think independently, and that you are results driven, that you really are a strategic thinker and planner. So let's have everybody be prepared to talk about how did they use their time during the pandemic to help improve and give themselves additional skill sets that are valuable.
I think that goes back to what Eleni was saying too about adapting to these times and making sure that we're prepared for what's coming next. What are some tips for proper online networking and resume building for those of us that are planning to apply to grad school or going into our first major job straight out of college?
Okay, I would say that there are 4 tools that are necessary for a successful job search, and I'm sure they're applicable when applying to a grad school. And these 4 tools are a powerful resume, a compelling LinkedIn profile, an engaged network, and interview strategies. Use your resume as a template. Put everything that you've done, experiences that you have, in a template. The job description that you are applying for is the golden ticket. You want to be able to take those relevant experiences that you have that will be job duties and responsibilities in this position and be able to demonstrate that you have done this work before, that you can do this work successfully, and you're more than capable of doing it for the new job or the new position. One of the things too, when you're doing your resume, is that you want to think in impact statements. Sometimes you see resumes and they've listed all the duties that they have done. Here you're using that golden ticket and trying to figure out what responsibilities are they looking for. And in that part of your resume that you're describing what you did, use impact statement. And this is about, 1, what was the issue? What did you do? And what were the end results? This is so helpful because people now, hiring managers and recruiters, don't have to connect the dots. They have very clear picture of what you're capable of doing. The other thing I want you to look to in the job description are some key words, search words. We all know that employers use the applicant tracking system because they get 500 resumes every day. They don't have time to go through it. So we really need to understand that the job description, although it doesn't say, hey, this is a search word, but the more it's used, the more you get an understanding of what words would be important, and adapt those words not only into your resume, but also into the cover letter that you're using to apply with. So these are really important things to allow you to get past that applicant tracking piece. The hiring manager doesn't have to connect the dots, and it's going to make the recruiter a little bit more curious about you and what you can do, and that usually results in a callback, and that's what's important. LinkedIn, make it your own. It represents you 24/7. It should be representing you like you would yourself if it was an in-person activity or you're talking to someone. One of the other things that you should know, it's 70 to 85 of recruiters go to LinkedIn and look for candidates that would fit the roles that they are trying or the jobs that they're trying to fill. Hiring managers also go and look at your LinkedIn page as they prepare to interview you because they want to know and learn more about you. Have a professional headshot. Doesn't have to cost money. Our phones are fantastic, but make sure that you have a neutral background. Make sure it's from your shoulders up. Make sure that you're also dressed appropriately. Have a powerful byline underneath your picture. It's a headliner, it's called. Like for me, even though mine is a business, I call myself the employment whisperer. Well, what does that do? First of all, people wonder, what in the world is this woman talking about? But they read on, and that's what you want to do. You want to captivate people as well. And then the other thing about LinkedIn, in the story, the about you, tell your story. This is not a place where you want to put your resume. Tell it what are your passions? Why are they your passions? And then highlight the skills that you have. And also have a call to action in that about section. What do you need? What are you looking for? This helps people figure out how they can help you if you're pretty specific on what it is that you're looking for. It keeps people really involved and they say, oh, I can help. I know something. Let me reach out. Networking would be the next one. You want to have your network engaged. And to do that, you've got to interact with them on a regular basis. Networking is all about building relationships and helping each other. You can build your team by having a very strong network. I really believe that everyone is going to have an opportunity to find an ideal position through networking if we really develop our teams and our networks in a really formal, well thought through, well diversified group. Make sure you reach out to your professors, your classmates, and the alumni, people who graduated in your degree, so that you can have a conversation, interact with them, find out how did they get their first job. Also, you want to go back into LinkedIn and look for people who are in the industry that you're looking to join, or look for people who have the job that you want so that you can ask more questions and find out what is it really like and how did they get their job. You should always be networking. And the final thing is interviewing strategies. You need to align your experience with your job description. Use the job descriptions, the duties and responsibilities, and turn them into questions. This gives you an idea what you possibly may be asked in the interview. Knowing that, it makes it a lot easier to practice, and I mean practice out loud. Ask a friend. Go on the platform you're going to be interviewed on and practice your interviewing skills. How do you describe yourself? Are you confident? Is it concise? Is it clear? Is the story empowering? You also want to identify 5 things that you want that interviewer to know about you because you think that's going to differentiate you from everyone else. And during the interview, you may really actually be able to touch on all of the things. If there's one that was left out, at the end of the interview, you can always say, there's one other thing I want you to know about me. Not that you think they should know, but what you want them to know. And so it gives you a sense that you too have some power over this interview. The interview should be a conversation, not an interrogation. The other thing that you want to make sure is your video presence. You want to make sure that your space is quiet, your background is neutral, and that the lighting comes from the back of your computer. Eye contact is important. So you want to be looking into the camera to give eye contact because we know face to face, we're looking into their face, and that's what we want to do here. And sometimes we spend more time looking at their picture, but you're not really giving them the eye contact that you want. And dress the way you would for a personal, in-person rather, interview.
That's really amazing. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
And that was like a lot of the things that you just said were what you told me when we spoke on the phone last week. And it helped me immensely with like thinking ahead of how I should start like conducting myself for future interviews and what path I need to take next. The last question of this panel is for both of you, and it goes back to what you were saying about using LinkedIn to keep connections and keep making connections, which I keep hearing use LinkedIn, and I myself don't know how to use it as well as I should by now. But a question that I have is, how can students use these job search engines effectively and guard themselves from fake offers and potential stalkers on platforms like LinkedIn? Terry?
Sure, I can go first. First of all, being aware that there's scammers out there is important. So now you're aware of that, and you're going to make sure that you check these jobs that maybe sound too good to be true. Things to look for: check the email address. It should be a corporate email address. It should not be a Gmail or a Yahoo address. Research this company online before you apply. Go to their website, see what they're really about, if they even have a website. Never pay or transfer money for a job or to start a job. That already is a red flag that this is a fraudulent scam artist at work. Use trusted search engines like LinkedIn, Glassdoor, and Indeed. They have their own screening process that they use to ensure that the postings that they're highlighting are legit. But you know what? Go with your gut. If you feel something doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, make sure you do that research of going to the website, going to see what their social media platform looks like. Many times they won't have one. Already a good idea. And when people are saying that they have an in to get into a federal job or a job in the federal government or a federal agency, yeah, well, don't pay attention to them, because every federal position has open information that is available to everybody, not just these scammers. So certainly realize that there's something wrong here, somebody not to necessarily to stay aware of. And then extra care does need to be taken for remote or online jobs. Here's where you want to do your due diligence. Go to the websites, check out all their social media, make sure that they're real. See if there are other people in LinkedIn who may work for this company already, giving you another opportunity to ensure that it's a real job that you're applying for.
Thank you. Chris? Wait, let me unmute you. Okay.
Okay, sorry. So basically for me, the focus for LinkedIn is to keep a minimalistic approach. So you want to be able to put just enough of yourself to have like a sampler. Like we have the meze dishes in the restaurants. You have to do the same thing. You have to have like your sampler platter. That's your LinkedIn. You don't have to tell your whole life story. You don't have to post your GPA and all the too many details that people put, which then puts them at risk of identity theft and other problems that you don't want. So the first thing for me is to put an engaging LinkedIn, as Terry said, however, one that's also on the conservative side in general. The other thing is when you get a company offer, somebody approaches you on LinkedIn, it's good to look at the company, click it, and investigate it on your own. The third thing I would say is make sure that you're going directly to the company to see if the job is posted on the company website. So a lot of times if you see Indeed, Glassdoor, what was the one that was popular a while back? Monster, right? You want to be able to look at the website directly that the job is coming from, the source website, rather than going through these things, because sometimes it's a waste of time because it's an old post that's no longer on the website. So you're investing your time and energy into something that no longer exists. So that's my big tip. I think Terry really addressed all the other major points.
Yes. So that concludes our second panel. Thank you, Chris and Terry. Our final panel will focus on first impressions, networking, job hunting, and effective branding. Our speakers are Michael Koritsidis and Anthony Kazazis. Michael is a motivational speaker, career coach, and head vocational ed coach at Phoenix House in New York. And Anthony is a motivational speaker and founding director of the New York City Network Group. So the first question is for both of you. When interviewing, how can we ensure that we are making a positive and lasting first impression? Anthony, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys, for having me on. I guess, it's so funny. I haven't hired someone in such a long time. But, as long as Terry Lynn did a great job, by the way. She pretty much answered everything. So, well-dressed, great attitude, well-groomed, ask a lot of great questions, share your stats. Knowledge is everything, of course. Knowledge is everything. I mean, you ask a lot of great questions is also very good. You can also be, you don't have to be afraid to be vulnerable as well. You can say you made some mistakes and you learn off your mistakes. But I think all those will really be a great impression. That's the way I see it. A lot of times when guys come in and we're talking, and especially if they know the industry, they know my industry and they did their research and they're able to do the conversation, they're able to engage in a dialogue about networking and trade show and trade business, I'm impressed. So knowledge is so important, Alexandra.
Mm-hmm. So definitely knowing about the background of the job you're applying for, doing research beforehand.
Oh, yeah. By all means. Yes. Very important.
Michael? Wait. Let me
Mute.
you. Oh, why is it not working?
Michael's got to do it, I think.
Michael, try to unmute yourself. Press the button that says unmute because it's not working. Oh, there we go.
Okay. I thought you guys had control over that.
Don't worry.
Yeah. So, Terry, you did a great job. I'm going to address a couple of things just to add on. So, number one, I believe in KISAS. Keep it short and sweet. A lot of times, people in sales and on interviews, they have what we call diarrhea of the mouth. So, we have to control that. And we have to be aware of that. If we're not aware of it, we can't control it. So understand that. Dress for success, right? That is so important online, in person. When you dress for success, what does that mean? Well, it depends on the kind of position you're applying for, what kind of organizations you're applying for. If it's a bank, a suit is appropriate. If it's a construction site, a little more casual, boots is fine, khaki pants is fine, plaid shirt is fine. Keep it casual. If you're an artist or graphic person or an entertainer, guess what? Anything goes when it comes to that, when it comes to dress for success. So again, know which company you're dealing with and the position you're applying for. Dress appropriately for that purpose. Research the company. Now, people will tell you when you research the company, you should know their finances, you should know everything there is to know. Well, I don't believe in that. Just basic research on product, on marketing, their future, where they're going the next 3 years, 5 years. Keep it short and simple. Just do a little research. So when they ask you a question, you can tell them, well, my research indicates that. And that shows you in a good light. Ask questions. Interview is definitely a conversation. Now, like Terry said, interrogation. So if you do the research, you can ask what I call, like wiffle ball, soft pitches of a wiffle ball, where you're not going to trick them, and they could happily answer you, and they'll feel good about answering the question that you have. So keep it very light as far as questions. But again, geared to what research you've done. Study your resume. Know your resume well, right? A lot of people, they'll say, well, I found the resume, you did X, Y, and Z. And they'll say, well, really? I did that? Well, yeah, it's right there. Well, I don't know. A friend of mine did it. So I didn't have an opportunity to look at it. So know the resume, know what's on there. So when they ask you something, you can reply. Know the job description. A lot of times, we talk about mirroring or modeling, right? So if you know the job description, you should know whether you can mirror or model the same things that they're asking for the position, the qualifications, skill set. You should know how to answer them in the same language that you see on an ad or something of that nature. Display your skills in a concrete sort of way, right? Quantify them. So if you say in sales and you are a recruiter and the people that you recruited in sales, well, they increase profit by 20%. That's quantifying. So quantifying, that's okay also. Enthusiasm. A lot of people, when they speak, they begin strong, they're okay in the middle. By the end of the sentence, you can hardly hear them. So keep that energy going from the beginning, the middle, to the end. Show enthusiasm, show energy, smile, and above all, breathe.
Thank you, Michael. So Anthony, what are the top tips for effective branding that will allow new grads to stand out in the professional arena at this time?
Top tips. Okay. Obviously, you really got to know your elevator pitch. Got to really master that and have that down to a science. You know, a lot of guys, a lot of people are just so scared and they're just standing there. They really don't know what to say sometimes, especially I go to a tremendous amount of trade shows. In order for me to survive, I run an expo, the NYC Real Estate Expo. I go to, my job is to go to every trade show out there, you know, NAR, all mainly real estate trade shows, building shows, attorneys, accounting shows, all these shows. And so when I go to the exhibitor, my goal is to go to the exhibitor and I do my elevator pitch and I talk about my show, why they should be at my show. And obviously I always tell them, hey, listen, if you love being here, then you'll love my show, because my show is twice as many people, twice as many exhibitors, and twice as many speakers and panelists, and just unlimited amount of networking. You really got to know your pitch, your sales pitch. I mean, that's got to be down to science. Obviously, you got to be real. You got to be a real person, like Mike's saying. You know, you got to be able to breathe and be real and show excitement and talk about it and show the love of your business. You know, you got to get out there and really show the love of your business. That pitch is so important. You know, asking a lot of questions again, and of course, listening about their product, what they're selling. I don't, you know, I think the pitch, the game plan, and in my sense too, I believe in the giver's gain philosophy. I do a tremendous amount of giving. You know, I always tell people they can have this or they can have more and they can do this, and it will always come back. I never ask for it to come back. It just comes back naturally. You know, you never want to ask for anything. You give, and it will come back. But yeah, I guess I hope that answers the question. That's it.
Thank you. Michael, before I ask you, can you step closer to the microphone so we can hear you a little bit clearly?
How's this?
The question is, what are some tips and tricks for effective job hunting and interviewing during the pandemic?
Okay, so that's just my question, correct?
Just your question.
Okay, so 3 words: network, network, network. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so network is really important. A lot of people don't do that because they don't really take it serious and they don't appreciate or understand the importance of networking. So what is networking? Network is tell the world about yourself. Tell the world what you're looking for. Tell the world why you're the right person for a particular position you're applying for. Family, friends, the people that you meet on the street, you know, when you're buying gas, when you buy your groceries, family members. A lot of people are afraid or embarrassed to tell their family members that they're either out of work or they're looking for work, so they don't even bother. Really bother. Tell the people, tell the world. So network is really important. Social media, right? I'm a dinosaur when it comes to that. I understand that. But social media is really important. And, you know, Terry Lee was telling us about LinkedIn. Yeah, put yourself on LinkedIn, put yourself on all these other social media, Facebook, right? But let them know if you're looking. I'm noticing a lot lately that people are they have different group sections on Facebook and on LinkedIn. Join those groups about jobs, about interviewing, you name it. They have that group for it. But join those groups. Let them know that you're looking for what you're looking for and why you're the best candidate for that. So go on social media, use that as best as you can. Follow up on previous jobs. A lot of people have had worked one job, two jobs, three jobs, and they never go back as a resource. Well, go back to the previous jobs that you had. Talk to the people that were managing, supervising. Let them know your status. Maybe they have a job there. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, you have to have left in a positive way. Yeah. If you slept with a guy's wife or you point somebody in the nose, that may not be the best thing to do. But if you left in a positive way, you didn't burn your bridge, go back to those 1, 2, 3 jobs and let them know that you're looking for it. And also tell them if they don't have a job, to keep you in mind. And the important thing with that is follow up every once in a while with them, just so they can have you in their mind, okay? So go back to your previous jobs. Google, right? If you Google your desired company and the position you're applying for, a lot of people send their resumes to HR. A little suggestion: if you go on Google and you look up the company, a lot of times the company will tell you the people that work in a certain department that you wish to work for. Find out who that person is. Find out their email, their contact information, and send your resume not to the HR, but directly to that person. If that person sees it and likes it, they send it to HR. But now you're having in the other people who send to HR, that's all they do, and they never hear from them. So that's just a little inside thing that I think you may think about doing, right? Bypass HR altogether, go to the department that you're at and find out the information. Volunteer. If you can't get a job that you want in the place that you want, you may decide to volunteer in that job, in that position, that company. And that volunteer can lead into employment, full-time employment, paid employment. So, and then again, the interviewing part, know your 2-minute pitch, your elevator pitch, know that really inside out, and practice in front of a mirror, practice in front of, the tape. You see how old I am. You practice into a recording instrument, right? In front of family and friends, and practice your 2-minute pitch that way. Okay, so that's it.
Thank you. So Michael mentioned social media. So my question for you, Anthony, is how can young professionals who live on their social media use those skills to excel in an online classroom or workplace?
So for social media, well, what Mike mentioned about volunteering, guys, it's so important. And what Mike said was extremely important. When we do our expos, I just wanted to bring up this one point first. When we do our expos, we get a lot of students that do come on over and they want to help out because they want to meet the owners of the businesses, and it does work. It definitely works. So if you can't get that job, it's definitely important to definitely volunteer. That was such a very valuable tip right there, and it could go a long way. And a lot of big owners like that too. If people are willing to just work for free and learn the business and help out, and then of course you're learning a tremendous amount of experience for that that company. Of course, it's the best training. So okay, for social media, you mean for I'm sorry, you say it again. The question.
So how can students and young professionals use their social media skills to help them excel in an online workplace or in the classroom? You had mentioned
Got it. Yeah.
in the spring conference that we did with Feel for Thought about like TikTok nowadays and everyone's on.
Yeah. I mean, social media, I try to tell people, man, it's everything. You got to dive into it. I even have my son who's I'm sorry, 15, and
Mhm.
I'm trying to get him to learn everything about social media, everything, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, Facebook, all of it. Okay. Even right now, I'm putting a think tank together for my business because obviously we all have to reinvent the wheel. Is there going to be any more live shows out there? No, not right now, not for 2020. So we have to immediately get into what's called a virtual trade show. Okay, so we got two virtual trade shows, one national, one global. It's probably going to be combined, national/global.
Mhm.
And so we have to do that. And we also have a pending live show, June 23rd, 21, because as of yesterday, I just had conclusion from the Hilton that they put a stop on it and it's over. I mean, they were stressing me out saying that they could hold me to my contract, and I'm trying to get a release to say, okay, I want my money back. And no, like if COVID ends October 29th, your show is on for November 2nd. I said, it can't happen. You
Mhm.
can't do a show in 4 days. You can't do it. So guys, social media is everything. I mean, you may know it, but it's good to dive into it and know everything about it, all the mechanics, all the pages, or all the things that are important to know about everything I just mentioned. Because if you came to me and you were working for me and I hired you and I paid you, but if you were also able to promote my business on your social media platforms, I would be so impressed. That's just like a valuable, priceless resume. I think it's the best. So the best thing for you guys to do right now, especially if you got the spare time, is to dive into social media. And I mean everything, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, everything I just mentioned, TikTok. Even when Barbara Corcoran opened up TikTok, and she's doing it and she's out there, I mean, obviously you got to be careful, like you guys
Mhm.
were talking about, scams and all this stuff out there. Everybody's getting damaged and they're getting hurt. Just be careful. Like Chris said, don't expose too much. But again, I would be so impressed if someone came to me and said, hey, I would love to work for you, and I would also like to promote your expo. We have, my associate and we have about 40,000 people on LinkedIn. Now with my think tank, and we should have close to like 500,000 people
Wow.
on LinkedIn. So that's why we want to take we want to take the virtual show global, because everybody looks at New York as a prize. Morocco, Shanghai, Dubai, Germany, they all look at New York as a trophy, and they do want to hear from the smart minds as to what's going on in the real estate industry. I think there was one more thing I wanted to mention to you, because I also tell a lot of young people, if you're going to dive into commercial real estate or residential real estate, right now is the time to start soaking up all the knowledge. Read your idols like Barbara Corcoran or Bob Knackel. I'm not sure if you guys know Bob Knackel from JOL. He used to own Massey Knackel, and Paul Massey and Bob Knackel. They sold their business for $100 million to Cushman Wakefield. Now they separated. Bob Knackel's with JLL, Paul Massey's with B6. So these guys are really professionals in their industry. And I tell people, if you want to dive into commercial real estate, read all their articles, get inside their mind, know what they're thinking, know how they're talking. So when you meet them, you can have a very intelligent conversation and they will be impressed with you. So
Mhm.
soak up the knowledge, get to know how these people think, read. Knowledge is everything. I mean, if you're able to talk the talk, it's great. That's the best resume in the world, is know your industry. Really study it, know it really well, and you guys will do good. Know your industry and know your social media, all of it. It's so valuable because you'll be able to market yourself as well. You'll market yourself if you're a sales rep for that company. You'll become famous, and then you could go self-employed, you know. And again, listen, we did a good job. I've done this expo for many years, but now is the year that I'm finally thinking about putting a think tank together and bringing more people into the picture of running the expo. and going into their different areas. So it is exciting. It's a definitely exciting time. COVID did bring a lot of people down, but actually it turned my world around a little bit. I got very depressed for a while and saying, oh man, I'm like Michael, old fashioned. And I'm used to this, the live shows. I can't deal with this virtual little man walking around, shaking hands and open up the doors and click on this and this and that. I mean, the kids today, Gen Zs, they're playing Roblox and they're playing Minecraft and they're used to this stuff. But us guys, we're so not used to it. We're used to the handshake. You know, there's no substitute to a handshake. But now it's virtual, and now we got to get with it. We got to get up and we got to sprint, or else we're going to be eaten up. You know, so we got to run and change our industry. Geez, I hope I answered the question.
Don't worry. Thank you. That was
okay.
Insightful information.
Good.
Next question is from Michael. How can we continue to set realistic career goals even though these times are so uncertain?
Great question. Wonderful question. So you have to be realistic. In other words, start with where you are. And what does that mean? What are your skill sets? What is your education? What is your qualification? A lot of people today, they want that penthouse position, penthouse office, when they should be starting in the basement. And no one wants to start there. But in today's world, you may just have to do that. A lot of kids today, a lot of college students feel entitled. Well, they have the degree and they want to make six figures and they want that office by the corner overlooking Central Park. But guess what? You're not going to get it. So you have to be realistic and start with where you are, from where you are. So that's number one. And just be honest with yourself. The key is to, when you're finding a job, when you're starting out, you want to not necessarily worry about salary. What you rather concentrate on is learn while you earn, right? Forget the salary. If you learn everything there is to know, and that's from the bottom up, you become more marketable. When you become more marketable, you can get better positions. When you get a better high position, guess what comes along? Salary. So everything follows. You have to follow that system. So learn while you earn, right? So that's a really key for college students coming out. Also, people who are working and they're making X amount of dollars and they, for whatever reason, they lose their position. Psychologically, mentally, emotionally, they're not ready to let go. They may have to go back 2 steps. They may have to forego that high salary. They may have to forego that wonderful title. They may have to downsize. And unless you're psychologically, emotionally, mentally prepared to do that, it's going to be challenging for you, real challenging. And you may never get out of that abyss. Mm-hmm. Finally, also, a lot of people don't know what kind of job they should go for, what kind of career they should go for these days. And that's true for many of us, whether you're starting out or whether you're in a position that you're paid and you don't know what to do. So here's a very simple way to find out what job you should be doing. And the question you should ask yourself, if I had to work this job, this career, this position, and I was not getting paid for it, would I still do it? So even if you were doing this job and you weren't getting paid, would you still do it? If the answer is yes, you got your passion, you got your answer, go for it. And of course, the money will follow. You can't put money before your passion, your love, your heart, your soul. But sooner or later, it's going to be a lose-lose situation, and you're going to end up losing more so than other people. I sort of came up with 3 professional types to help define your career, right? And it's mind, hand, and altruistic. So what do I mean by that? If you're a mind person, then the kind of job you should be going for is the kind of person that uses your intellect. What do I mean by that? You may want to be a researcher, an engineer, perhaps a lawyer, a doctor. What is it of the mind that you should go? If you are a mind person, you shouldn't be what I call a hands person, right? So what's a hands person? What type is that? Landscaping, maintenance, they're good with the mechanics. Those are people with hands. Now, those people should not be going where the mind is. So they're not qualified for that, or they don't have that love and passion for it, right? And the third is altruistic. Now, being an altruistic person, you may not make all the money in the world. Why? Because that may include social workers, nurses, people, people who are environmentalists. Those are people who are altruistic. They want to help. They want to save the world. The money may not be as good as a person with a mind or a hand, but at least they know what kind of type of person they are, and they know what kind of profession to go after. Many of us go after positions, jobs that we don't qualify for, that we don't love, or we listen to other people tell us where we should go, what kind of job we should have. And then when we do that, we find out that we don't really love it. A lot of my clients, they went for computers, or they went for banking, and then after a while, they decided, you know what, I'd rather open up a flower shop. I shouldn't have listened to X, Y, and Z. I love flowers. Yeah. So know the type of person you are, and go after that type of position, and be happy getting it.
I like what you said about having passion and doing something because you're passionate about it, and not just because it's going to make you a lot of money. Because I've heard that plenty of times, and it's like easy to kind of forget because you're so on track to wanting to do well and be successful and prove your family right and do more for yourself than your family was able to do for you.
Right.
So I think that's the most important thing, like having a passion and keeping to it and making sure what you're doing is what you love. So I want to thank both of you, Anthony and Michael, for your insight. And now we are going to go into the Q&A portion of our event. Does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask to any of our speakers? You can either type them in the chat, or you can open that, you can turn on your microphone and speak freely. There's not many of us, so it's nice. We can all kind of get to know each other. Anybody?
If you have a question, you should ask, but it's free.
I'll give you a couple of minutes to, if you have any questions, to brainstorm. We're going to show a video that has been prepared for us by Greek in the City, Chris Sarametidis. Let me share my screen. One second. This video is about the top 10 tips and tricks for live streaming and broadcasting.
Here it is. Top 10 tips and tricks if you're new to broadcasting and live streaming. Adepame, that's how you say let's go in Greek. All right, so number one is lighting. Now, your lighting can be a window, but if it is a window, then you're very limited to the time of the day that you can film at. This is the light that I purchased and that I use. It's really easy. It sits on your desk, and you can put your phone on it too. Now, accent lights can also be very helpful, and you don't have to be extra like me with my park cans there in the bag. Simple lamps or candles work just as well to create an ambiance. Now, number two, you can go online and spend hundreds of dollars on a live streaming camera, or buy yourself a digital camera that can also be connected to the computer. But if you have an iPhone 10 or above, or one of many Androids that has a bomb camera, you can just use the camera on your phone. You might have to download some specific apps that would aid in your live stream, but it's better to use your cell phone than the one on your computer, seeing as the one on your computer is not very high resolution. Usually. There is always the exception to the rule. Okay, moving on to tip number 3 is your sound. Now, as you see, I have a microphone right here, which gets me a pretty good sounding audio. If I do say so myself, I guess you guys can let me know what you think of my audio in the description below. Is it working? Does it sound good? If you do not have a fancy microphone like this one, then please, at the very least, wear headphones. It is so important that you at the least wear headphones, so this way everybody isn't hearing themselves talking while they're trying to talk to you. Now, you can also purchase something similar to this microphone right here, which I found on Amazon for only $39.99. Tip number 4. We have to bring all of these things together: our sound, our visuals, and anything else that you want to pop in and out of the screen. For this, I recommend using OBS. It's available for Windows or Mac and Linux, and it's super easy to create yourself an amazing looking broadcast. Now, tip number 5 goes hand in hand with tip number 4 because it is a stream deck. Now, the stream deck makes it super easy to switch between scenes that you have laid out in the OBS software, making your live stream or broadcast way easier. Number 6, clean up your room before you go live. And number 7 is after you're done cleaning up, make sure that you decorate and put some of your style in your background. Obviously, mine is Greek/Cypriot themed. Number 8, dress for the occasion. We're stuck in the house, so you might as well dress up and pretend you're going somewhere fancy. And if you don't want to wear pants, that's okay too. As long as you look presentable from the waist up, you're. Number 9, prepare your broadcast prior. Have a list, an outline ready to go of what you're planning on doing. Like, for instance, here's mine. See, this is the outline for this video that I'm doing right now. And of course, number 10, don't forget to have fun and be yourself. This is a new time we're living in, and there's plenty of new opportunities happening right within this broadcasting realm, this online live streaming realm. My name is Chris. Thank you for watching this video on Greek in the City. Thank you so much to Philo for Thought and Christina for suggesting to do this video and collaborating with me on it. And I'm so excited to do more stuff with you in the future. Thank you so much for watching me.
Okay, I think we all got some useful information out of that, as well as some kind of elaborate things that maybe not all of us need. But anyone have any questions that they want to present to the speakers?
That was that was very cute. That was very nice. You know, I wanted to say one more thing, guys. You know, when I'm starting to see this with a lot of companies too, and a lot of individuals, especially when people go to trade events and trade shows. I started seeing a lot of this, and it basically happened. Many of you know about BNIs, right? Have you guys heard of BNIs? Okay, so you know they're interesting, and I actually went to a BNI, and I think I was the only person helping everybody, and it was like there was like policies and rules and fees, of course, to pay at a BNI. Now BNIs are good; they're very good to be a part of some type of a networking group. But that's basically, I went to a BNI for about maybe 3 weeks. Then I left and I opened up my own BNI. So a lot of people are, if you are a networker and you can start collecting all the data of all the people, you should be gathering everybody together and start doing your own little breakfast meetings. And trust me, they will grow, because I'm a perfect example of what happened. Our breakfast meetings went from 20 to 40 to 60, and now we're up to 4,000 people. So now we have an expo. So basically, if COVID wasn't happening, we were going to get ready to come back to the city to do these B&Is, because many people are complaining about the price of the B&I, the cost of it, the policy. So we were basically going to come back and do a very large free B&I, just pay for your breakfast, networking events. But my advice is definitely, guys, when you start to work for a company and you're starting to meet a lot of people, you can start off with 10 people, and then you just ask those 10 people to invite a friend. And all of a sudden, you're the host, and your B&I keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And again, your boss, your company is going to love you for it, because I'm starting to see a lot of companies and a lot of people doing that, a tremendous amount of them. A lot of times they'll call up and say, hey, you want to come down to our group and speak for 10 minutes? You can always have a great speaker. You can call Michael Cortesides to come down and speak. And I mean, you can have anybody to come down and speak. And that's the great thing. When we started doing that B&I, when we started doing our own breakfast meeting, we had so many interesting speakers, great people. So you always bring down one speaker, and then the rest of the time is all networking, because that's all people want to do is just network, and get to know people. But boy, once you start that, then that's your own little business, and then it starts to grow, and that thing starts to grow and grow and grow, and then the sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want to do. You can make it into a little mini expo, a little mini trade B&I event. It's huge, and people are doing it. They're definitely doing it. So, and the one more thing about, I think Terry Lynn said, because I was doing some research, I think the goal is to, LinkedIn profile is very important, because 92% of the recruiters leverage social media to find high quality candidates. And out of those, 87% of those use LinkedIn. So yeah, take LinkedIn extremely very serious. Take it serious. That is the way to go too.
Well, now that you mentioned LinkedIn again, we're going to be uploading a video late July, early August on how to use LinkedIn and what students should bring up, and basically the ins and outs of it, so that we can all have this resource to look back on when we're making our accounts and start using them to make more connections. We do have a question. So Marinos asks, how far should you plan into the future? In reality, most things are unpredictable and don't go as planned, yet we're supposed to see where we will be in 5 years' time. Should we focus more towards a general direction, or should we create a new plan for every new environment? Does anyone want to start us off with some insight? Chris.
So one point is that the Greek way prepares you for this. When I say the Greek way, you have the plan A, then plan B, then plan C, and then, oh my gosh, eat something, and then make a new plan. So that's the plan. Marinos, this is the best plan. You make a very detailed plan A. That's your ideal plan, okay? If it works, beautiful. If it doesn't work because of whatever situation it is, have provisions for a plan B. If plan B becomes impossible due to something major like COVID or something else, there should be a viable plan C that will still leave you happy, even though it's not the direct path like plan A was. And then, as your parents are probably telling you, stop, eat something, breathe. Do Eleni's breathing technique. Count to 5. 5 in, 5 out, breathe, start over again. Plan D, and keep doing it until something works, because I find if you actually prepare yourself in this manner, even just the preparatory process makes you feel at ease. So even though, like, now people ask you, that's a very popular question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Well, you're not going to be in COVID in 5 years, so you know that, right? So you have to think a little bit positive and say, this is my A plan, and then my reserve plan in case that's not possible is this. Now I know Terry is nodding, so she has something to contribute to that. And then I want to hear from Kathy, because you did the strategy question earlier today.
All I was nodding for is because you were so spot on. That's exactly right. We always need to be creating a plan for guidance, and we've heard that from other people today as well, because if we don't have any kind of a plan, nothing will happen. And we can always, like you said, adjust a plan to move forward, fine tune it, and keep moving. So I do think, having a plan is a great place to start.
Kathy?
I agree with both answers prior. Just creating several plans, and if it doesn't work out, it's okay. It's really okay. We'll figure out another way of doing it. If it's not the front door, we'll go on the side door. If it's not the side door, we'll get to the back door. But reality is, just because you planned it that way, it's not supposed to always happen that way, and that's okay. It's really okay, and we just got to keep our confidence up. And it's important to be like, all right, that didn't work out. What's next? So making a plan after another plan and being confident that your plans, one of them will stick.
I think one thing to say is that when you have a plan, you feel in control. Without a plan, you're out of control. So having a plan, even if it gets, edited, it's still a plan. You still got something where you feel in control of the situation, which normally would not feel in control of.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? If not, I want to thank Chris for organizing this event. I want to thank Terry, Michael, Anthony, Eleni, Kathy, everyone for being here, for coming out tonight and listening to the insight that our speakers had to give. And I hope that you all take advantage of their LinkedIns and make the connections so that you can reach out to them later on when you do have questions, if questions come up. And thank you all for bearing with me. This was my first time doing something like this. I hope I did it justice. So if that is all, I just want to say that we're also going to be doing another event like this probably in August and through the fall semester for students with different topics. So just keep an eye out on Feel for Thought's website and on our social media so that you know what's going on and can attend events.